Hello everyone, welcome back to another Doctor Who related video. It has been 51 years since our first multi-Doctor story, and we thought we'd celebrate that by talking about multi-Doctor stories. It's the year of the 60th anniversary, and a lot of us were probably hoping for multi-Doctor stories, but we kind of got multi-Doctor stories in the form of the 60th with the sort of Dr. Donna, the not Doctor, and then of course the bi generation. So we got
Yeah,
multi-Doctor
they all
stories
sort of count, don't
loosely.
they?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the closest that would come to a traditional multi-doctor story would be the giggle, or at
Yeah.
least the final 15 to 20 minutes of it with, Ncuti and Tennant acting opposite each other. But even then, they were very unconventional
Yeah.
multi-doctor stories, to say the least, weren't they?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it wasn't even an original concept way back in 1970, well, two, when
Yeah.
they started cooking that one up. I mean, 72 when it was on, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, 72, yeah.
'Cause it's the 30th. But yeah, because apparently Barry Letts and Terrence Dicks had been getting, fans writing in or talking to them on the street or whatever, suggesting, oh, why don't you bring back William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton and have them meet up? And they were very dismissive of it, kind of understandably. But then after a while, they thought, well, why don't we do that? 'Cause, they like their big luring in
Season
the
openers.
audience season openers, don't they?
Just
Like
to get the
having a
Radio
little
Times,
gimmick.
isn't it? Just to get the Radio Times cover.
Yeah. And so for the 10th anniversary season, which had much closer to the 9th anniversary itself, they went for a multi-doctor one, didn't they?
Three Doctors.
Which, I mean, it's a good place to start, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it is the original, you might say.
And it's a belter. I think that the thing with multi-Doctor stories is there's a comfort, there's a warm blanket feeling to them, and I think the Three Doctors is that to me.
Yeah, I'd agree. They're very fan servicey by nature, though. Like, they're not sort of the more broader appeal stories. Like, they're often good on Doctor Who story terms, I suppose. But they're not sort of the ones that can usually transcend, like, Doctor Who fandom in that sense. Like, you're not going to have something like your Blink or your Pyramids of Mars.
I mean,
those
Dare the
stories
Doctor technically has sort of broken that mold, but we'll talk about Dare the Doctor.
Yeah, we'll get there. But yeah, they never seem to quite reach that status, I suppose. They're always within the fan bubble because just by their nature, really. And at the end of the day, you're not going into a multi-Doctor story looking for the best Doctor Who story ever told.
You're just there to go, God, I love this show. I think that's the whole point of a multi-Doctor story, isn't it? Just go, oh, God, isn't it great?
Yeah, just to have something you don't usually get. Having, with the Three Doctors, Patrick Troughton and John Pertwee acting opposite each other. A wonderful double act there. I think it's great that, there isn't an instant getting along there. There is friction between them. Because, drama just adds to the entertainment experience.
Well, you
need conflict
to have drama, yeah.
And it's fun bickering, but they work it out in the end. You got William Hartnell there for a bit to balance them both out at times. I mean, sadly, wasn't able to do it for much more, but I think that the chemistry between Troughton and Pertwee makes up for it. Yeah.
And it sets everything. It sets the mold for what a multi-Doctor story is going forward, really.
In some ways, I don't know. I feel like the Five Doctors is more seen as the quintessential multi-Doctor story, though.
Yeah.
Although, sadly, that doesn't feature much of them actually
together.
Yeah. Because it is more them off on their own separate journeys. I think that's why often, when it comes to multi-Doctor stories, the smaller ones are the ones that work better. Part of what works about the Three Doctors there is arguably just the two of them.
And I think there's a valid reason why you have all these Doctors in the form of Omega, this sort of exploring Time Lord history as well. I think it's great.
Yeah, they always try with those anniversary stories with them all. Well, actually, all anniversary stories, come to think of it, that we've had, sort of try to have a fresh start in a way, don't they?
It's sort of to go, this is the show, this is where we're going forward with the show, because we have the third Doctor getting his knowledge back, isn't it, in the end of Three Doctors, so he can go off.
Being forgiven by the Time Lords. And then come Five Doctors, he's on the run again. It's back to how it all started, fleeing the Time Lords. Day of the Doctor, it's home the long way round. He's now got Gallifrey to go out and find.
Two Doctors, forget about it.
Well, not an anniversary story. That's more just one for the fun of it.
Yeah, true.
We're skipping over some Nemesis as well here.
Yeah. We'll cover it briefly, I guess. It's not multi-Doctor.
Well, no, not multi-Doctor.
No, we're all right. We're all right. We covered it.
And then the giggle, it's got the removal of the Doctor's trauma, I suppose. The Doctor finally getting therapy.
Yeah.
To sort of move on, slightly less burdened by the past. It's about him stopping and having a breather. So in all those senses, you do have a fresh start. I don't know quite where I'm going with this tangent, but it just seems funny to point out.
Yeah. There's a through line with them, really. Yeah. But Three Doctors, a lot of fun. A comfort story, a very great. I think it was my first multi-Doctor story I saw, actually. So I think I probably
it would have been mine.
I think it's probably my favorite of the classic lot, even though I know Five Doctors is just classic Who, isn't it, distilled?
Like I say, it's the quintessential one, but I think I prefer Three Doctors as well, really. Yeah, I mean, one of my first Pertwees might actually be my first story with Troughton in.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's either that, Five Doctors, or Tomb. I don't know which way around I did them all.
Definitely was my first Hartnell story.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And it was one of those stories when you're learning about the show. What fascinated you, because you're like, Three Doctors? And I remember seeing a photo of Second Doctor and the Third Doctor looking at Omega. And I think it's in one of the sort of tie-in monster books. And I remember going to my dad, is that at a Doctor exhibition? There's like an opening and you've got the Doctors there. I didn't realise it was actually part of the story. So it was quite joyous learning that was an actual thing.
I mean, being quite young, like collecting the DVDs, going through all these stories out of order, and not necessarily having a complete encyclopedia of every story that ever existed in order. It's rather bizarre when you're looking at, okay, you've got Three Doctors, it's the first Three Doctors. The Five Doctors, that's the first Five Doctors. And you come to the Two Doctors, and it's like, why is it the sixth and the second?
Yeah.
Why is it not the first and the second or something? It sort of throws you a little bit, that one. And it is different in many ways. I mean, also, the Lost in Time DVD by my dad brought that home. I was like, oh, is this a multi-Doctor story, the first and second Doctor?
And now you got to go to Big Finish for that, for Daughters of the Gods. I guess we'll talk about expanded media multi-Doctor stories as well.
I think we got to, because that's where they've really taken off and thrived, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, one TV one we've not mentioned yet, Twice Upon a Time.
Yeah. It's all right. It's okay. Like
that reaction.
Yeah.
I thought you were about to choke on your drink.
Yeah. I think I need a bit of brandy from the TARDIS.
But yeah, it does. It does often seem to slip a lot of people's mind. I think maybe because it doesn't have Doctors in the title, and it isn't necessarily an anniversary story.
Well, then you've got like Deep Breath as well. It starts to get a bit sort of muddy when you get to that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Twice Upon a Time.
With it being a recast first Doctor as well. I mean, obviously Five Doctors has that as well, but it's also got Patrick Troughton and John Pertwee in there. So it's got William Hartnell and Tom Baker through old footage as well. So certainly it is closer to a multi-Doctor story than Deep Breath, I will say. I'd say it does properly count as a multi-Doctor story, whereas Deep Breath is more just a little cameo. It's not Doctor interacting either, is it?
Yeah, it's Clara on the phone. But yeah, Twice Upon a Time, it's got some nice poetry with both Doctors not wanting to regenerate.
It did at the time for like a nice look back to the where it all began, didn't it? Really.
Yeah.
And a nice sort of closing off of that chapter of Doctor Who before we moved on to the 13th Doctor. I mean, Day of the Doctor, though, that's one of your favourite stories, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say it's in my top 10. Just probably maybe nostalgia, and maybe because it was the first anniversary where I was conscious of, because obviously we were fans when it was like the 45th anniversary, but there was no fanfare for it.
So no, I suppose 45 is a bit of an odd number, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the closest you could count would be Journey's End. Because that is sort of like a coming together of lots of different elements, but not necessarily all Doctor Who elements. I mean, the same could be argued for Day of the Doctor, but there's certainly more of a anniversary feel to it than Journey's End has, whereas that's more of an epic crossover of the Whoniverse as it was back then.
And seeing it in the cinema and just the whole road and journey to the 50th, just the build up to it, it felt like an event. And it did, and it very much was an event, and I think that it was sort of peak Doctor Who. It was when Doctor Who was being plastered all over the place. I mean, I think the 60th kind of captured it, but we'll talk about the 60th in retrospect fairly soon, I guess.
Yeah, that's more of its own topic, really, because that's much more of a fresh and recent one, isn't it? But yeah, certainly the 50th was a special time to be a Doctor Who fan. And I suppose Day of the Doctor was, in many ways, the culmination of that. But I mean, drifting into Big Finish, they had their own 50th as well, didn't they?
Yeah, light at the end.
Which we have done a full review on.
Yeah.
To celebrate 10 years of it.
It's a really great one. It's sort of a very different Big Finish to what we get now, because we didn't have the new series license, so it's very much Big Finish working with every element they've got, and I think it works brilliantly. And I think very much like Five Doctors, it's a story that can only be done once, really, and can never be captured again. It
very much fit that Five Doctors mold in many ways, doesn't it? In how just that celebratory vibe that it has, where it feels quintessentially Doctor Who. It's hard to explain, but yeah, there is a certain feeling there to it. And I think the genius bit about this one is the way it includes all the Doctors within it, because it's not like, they're all suddenly thrown together right at the beginning and then they go on this journey together. But at the same time, it's not, they're each doing their own stories as it goes on, we're cutting between them. It does it almost more in chunks, doesn't it? You start more with the 4th and the 8th, what they're up to. Then you get the 5th Doctor for a while. Then you get the 6th and the 7th before it all comes together towards the end. But the way it all interweaves, the way the story's told, with each Doctor sort of encountering a similar event but reacting to it differently, which I think is genius, because it's, showing how these are all the same person, but they're different at the same time. They will react differently to different stimulus, I suppose. And so that makes for a rather wonderful celebration of the show. And yeah, check out our full review for more praise of that one. It's a banging story from Nick Briggs.
Yeah, another banging Nick Briggs. Annihilators. It's one of our favourite Big Finishes in recent years. It's second and third Doctor, set in season 7. It's an absolute hoot, isn't it, really?
Yeah, you got Jamie there as well, so he gets to encounter the brig again, and you get some invasion vibes to it at times as well. There's even a mention of the elevators in buildings like these, a fun callback to that story. It all just comes together rather nicely. It's a chunky one as well. It's 7 parts,
but it's not that chunky because the parts are quite short.
Aren't chunky. But it works well within that length, I would say. And certainly is a very different kind of multi-Doctor story, because it is very much a third Doctor story.
Yeah.
But with the second Doctor and Jamie sort of gate crashing, I suppose, in a way. Yeah. And it's funny to think that, because we were initially a bit disappointed when the second Doctor and Jamie were announced to be in it. Not because we have anything against them, but because we were hyped that at last we're getting a true season 7 part story. And then that sort of felt like it would dilute that a bit, but it didn't at all. In fact, it improved it. And then Intelligence for War came along. We got our true season 7 parter anyway. But yeah, I think it's one of the best releases from the Third Doctor Adventures range. So yeah, definitely well worth checking that one out. I mean, we also had Out of Time, a whole trilogy of multi-Doctor stories. This is when you start to get a bit more gimmicky with it, I suppose.
Well, I think the comics are probably more guilty because I think it's every year you have a Doctor meet, especially when you get to like the Jodie stuff. Every year you had poor Jodie's Doctor going, "Here's Tennant with Jodie," and you're like, "Oh, come on, let her stand on her own 2 feet."
Yeah, it sort of felt like it was just being there to push sales, really. Yeah. Which, on the one hand, I understand. You know, it is a business. They do want to actually sell these things. But I'd say it sort of felt like it was getting to the point of compromising it, I suppose, from an outside perspective. But I'm saying this to someone who's not read them, so they may be great. If you have read any of these comics and you think we're wrong here, let us know. Yeah.
Time of Victorious as well, another big platform with David Tennant at the center of it, with 8th and 9th Doctor and the 4th Doctor on sort of the periphery of it all. I thought he
had another Doctor friend in there as well. I was like, it's some comic or something. There was another Doctor.
There was a little bit of Jodie in there.
Yeah. Was it like a short story?
Yeah.
And so there's certainly a lot going on with Time Lord Victorious. That just seemed like a snowball.
Yeah.
Just kept adding more and more on.
But Out of Time was great. Loved it.
I think certainly 2/3 of it. I think Wink would be the weakest of them. Because like the setup is 10th Doctor, Classic Doctor, recurring monster. I almost said classic because the Weeping Angels just...
I guess they technically can be classic now.
They're nearly 20 years old, aren't they? Well, not over 15. Not quite nearing 20 just yet, but it won't be long. But yeah, certainly they are very much a part of the DNA of Doctor Who now. I think instantly were, really, from the moment Stephen Moffat introduced them in Blink. They sort of entrenched themselves, really, didn't they?
Yeah.
So it does feel right for this trilogy to go Daleks, as I've meant, Weeping Angels. They don't stand out as like the new boys or anything.
No.
Yeah. But certainly that story would be the weakest for me. The one where it felt like, okay, maybe we're stretching it a bit now with the 10th and 6th Doctor. Because 10 and 4th Doctor works very well because, you know, it's the first time you're getting it as well. You're excited to have Tennant back on Big Finish again back in 2020. And, you know, also they're the big Doctors of their own respective series, aren't they? You've got the most popular classic and the most popular new series. And there's a quality about them that seems to work very well together. And then you come to what's Out of Time 2 called?
Gates of Hell.
Gates of Hell, that's it. And you've got David Tennant and Peter Davison. You've obviously got the family connection here now.
Yeah. The story even plays with it as well, which is great.
Yeah. And I think they just work so wonderfully together. It's nice having a combination of Doctors who do get on. And I know we were saying earlier about how, you know, conflict breeds drama and such.
Yeah.
But the opposite can work as well. You can have the Doctors just get along really well. And I think this is maybe those two, maybe the exception that proves the rule there.
Yeah.
There's something just fun about that combination. And yeah, going up against the Cybermen as well. What's not to love there? But yeah, with the 6th Doctor, felt like maybe they were stretching a bit there. But Time Crash, another TV one we didn't quite talk about.
That was exciting.
Yeah, that was nearly 45 years, wasn't it? I mean,
Yeah, it was
close 40,
2007.
yeah, 44. In fact, it would have been,
Um,
yeah, Triple Need would have been around the 23rd, wouldn't it?
yeah, yeah, it would have been. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a lot of that was sort of hype, wasn't it? Really.
Mm. I
Um,
think they were being asked about it before, weren't they? And they were
mm,
saying it's sort of a spoof, but sort of not. And so that was just a joy. And again, it's David getting to be a bit of a fanboy, isn't it? Being his
yeah,
doctor.
so it's quite lovely.
Mm. And certainly you do have a bit of meta-ness there, don't you? Of, you know, now as you and stuff. It's it all turns out very nicely, that one. It's a good way to spend, what, 3 minutes, 4 minutes?
7, I think, isn't it?
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, decent chunk of time then. But yeah, I mean, back to Big Finish. Should we talk about a story that we teased a little bit earlier?
Yeah, let's.
Yeah, the first and second Doctor meeting in Daughter of the Gods.
Yes. Playing with Dalek's master plan. If those events didn't happen, Catherine would still be alive. And
yeah, it's like alternative history as
yeah,
the two crash into each other. A very different way of doing a multi-Doctor story.
I think part 1 and part 2 are from each Doctor's sort of perspectives. One is first Doctor led. Second, and then part 3 they sort of interconnect.
And then part 4 it's the big explosive head-to-head. And you get the Doctors at odds, but for reasons beyond just pettiness, I suppose. It's not the usual bickering, although they have fun with that as well. There is a genuine heart to why they are against each other here.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
And one of our most recent multi-Doctor stories is an audio novel. Box of Terror, so we have the 4th Doctor and 3rd Doctor and 2 Sarahs, and that's
multi-Sarah story as well.
Multi-Sarah, yeah. And I love how the story covers that. We have like Sarah the first and Sarah the second, and then like that's kind of doing them a misservice. So we'll have one Sarah Jane and one Sarah Jane Smith. But they'll always be the Sarah Jane. It's very sweet how both Doctors have a lot of love for Sarah, and I think that's quite sweet. And they're very protective of her.
That's nice to know. I think Lizzie Hopley mentioned that in the writing of it, when it's just referring to them as characters, the 3rd Doctor's Sarah is called Sarah Jane.
Yeah.
And then the 4th Doctor's
Sarah.
Yeah, just Sarah. Because that's sort of how they were often referred to, isn't it? By their respective Doctors. That's sort of how you identify, really, it's sweet that they each have their own way of identifying that. And it's nice to have that as a way within the text to realise, this is not the one that we're on about this time.
And that's ultimately both Doctors' sort of common interest to get Sarah back. They might not see eye to eye, because the 3rd Doctor can't really be done with the toothy grin and sort of blasé nature of how the 4th Doctor is. So it's again, nice conflict.
It's funny, isn't it, how when you look at the ways that different actors have interacted with each other, like conventions and such, that does often inform their Doctors' interactions.
Yeah.
I think you can see that a lot of the time. The ones that get along a lot more are the ones who will tend to get along a lot more. And then, John Pertwee and Patrick Troughton, of course, became very good friends as time went on. But
they kind of
maintained that. Yeah, they maintained that bickering, didn't they? That's lovingly so. And it's a wonderful convention stories of those two later on, isn't there? And I think, that's really what it's all about at the end of the day, isn't it? These amazing actors who play the same role, essentially, played the same role so many times throughout the years. But, them finally getting to act opposite each other and us having the joy of
seeing
witnessing that, really.
Yeah. They're nuggets of history, and they're always going to be special watching. Or listening or reading,
Yeah, because even when it is a book or an audiobook, they're still capturing those personalities that the actors infused into the characters, aren't they?
Hmm.
So there always is that special feel of it's worlds colliding, isn't it, really, with a multi-doctor story? And yeah, sometimes eras colliding as well. How, they can mix things up a bit. And, and then other times it's more the joy of having that particular doctor in a different era, really. And seeing, what the ethos of that era has in store for the doctor of a different time. Because I think it's fair to say something like Twice Upon a Time isn't necessarily informed by classic Who, particularly 60s classic Who.
Yeah.
But gets to have good fun with the first Doctor nevertheless, and has a Stephen Moffat spin on the character. Really. And a whole spin on, aging as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
About how you look back and cringe at your younger self a lot of the time. I mean, we are people who do YouTube. There are videos of us out there from 10 years ago that we would look back on and cringe. So,
yeah,
we know the feeling and we know what Moffat was going for there. Multi-Doctor stories, something special about them.
We love them. We'll happily buy them. We consume them.
Yeah, we'll complain that there's too many of them, but we'll still
secretly love it.
Them all.
Yeah, we secretly love it. Yeah.
We'll turn it around one day soon and go, it's been a while since we had a multi-Doctor story. Can we have another one now? Yeah,
you're sort of getting withdrawals from them, really. Yeah.
We've had explosion in the last few years, and we are very lucky. And yeah, a lot of good ones out there.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. We're lucky to be in a position where we can get them, and it makes total sense. If we can do it, let's tell those stories, really, while we've got these lovely actors to tell them.
Yeah. Let them enjoy each other's company.
And we'll enjoy listening to it.
Yeah, we'll enjoy listening to it. That's the main thing. I mean, also as well, we say it feels like there's been an explosion of multi-Doctor stories, but there's also just an explosion of stories in general, really.
Yeah.
Like, looking at Big Finish alone, the amount that they pump out a month now, it makes multi-Doctor stories in comparison probably about just as rare, really. They're not there as often. It's like we say, something special. Roll on to the next multi-Doctor story.
Yeah, whatever that will be, I'm sure we'll find out sooner or later. But yeah, let us know your favorite multi-Doctor story, whether that be expanded media, televised.
Or let us know your favorite televised and expanded.
Yeah, why not?
There's no character limit on the comments you can leave.
Yeah, do a whole essay on why it is. I don't know. It'd be interesting to know people's thoughts on it, because everyone's got their own take on what a multi-Doctor story is, what
they should be.
Yes.
What works for that. Whether they want it to be pure fan service or whether they want a bit more heart behind it, I suppose.
Yeah, something a bit experimental.
You can get both. Yeah. There's probably there's a happy medium with most things. The truth lies somewhere in the middle. Please do that. Please like as well if you've enjoyed us nattering on about multi-Doctor stories. Please subscribe for more videos. I'm sure some more multi-Doctor stories will be reviewed in future, along with many other stories as well. Just chats about other topics, Big Finish, TV, usual stuff.
All the good stuff.
We'll see you in the next video.
Bye-bye.